All right, February 21st, Newcastle-Damariscotta Broadband Committee meeting 3:01 in the afternoon. We're doing this weekly up until March 20th to keep everybody updated. So I'll start right off. The Damariscotta special town meeting last Wednesday authorized $12,500 from ARPA funds to go toward broadband funding. That was what the selectmen recommended, and that's how the vote went. So no changes there. I wasn't able to attend the Newcastle selectmen's meeting or select board meeting, and David or anyone else that would like to give that update.
Well, that we're not, Newcastle's not voting on it till the 28th.
Right.
So it wasn't really much of a discussion at all regarding it at our last meeting last Monday. So, but I guess people are trickling in with some requests that the town allocate some money to it. Hopefully more come in before the 28th.
Agreed. Alan asked me to call him the other day after we exchanged emails talking about what Damariscotta had done and Newcastle. And I updated him and said Newcastle hadn't moved yet, and Damariscotta had cleared 12,500, and he didn't really know what to think about that. He said, so they're not really going to go ahead with our proposal. And I said, not at the level of funding that you guys suggested or started with. So.
Well, he called me and I go, well,
Yep.
you know that they passed 12,000. His comment was, well, that's a non-starter.
Right.
And then we switched to Newcastle's discussion. And I told him I have no idea what we're going to contribute. So he's trying hard, but I don't know.
Has there been any discussion amongst selectmen? I guess it would have to be at the meeting, not privately, but in terms of generally what people feel is would be reasonable by the taxpayers or not?
You mean for Newcastle? No.
Yeah.
No, but nobody's talked actual money yet.
Mhm.
There was a discussion of just the value of doing it. And it seems like everybody agrees that the unserved should be covered quickly as possible. How that translates with doling out this opera money, I guess that's left to be determined next Monday night.
Hey, David, how does that work? Does someone make a proposal as to how much, or you look at how much is available and then you figure out what other stuff has been allocated and then you go?
Right. It's my understanding the town manager is coming with a proposal and we're working off of that. I know that on that proposal, there's two items. One, to reimburse the town for the money spent to put up the COVID protections in the town office. And then the second one is for the new air filtration system that's going to be installed in the community room at about 25,000. So that will be on there. And I don't know about the rest. I think there is some suggestion that the town manager might have made to me that she may have a proposal to give a bonus to the town employees for working through COVID.
Can that be done? Is that part of the okay to?
There is some funding that can go to various government employees for that. I have trouble with that because the office was closed for quite a long time. And I don't know, maybe different if they were firefighters or ambulance drivers or, police
responders.
But to reimburse the town for improvements in the town office, that can't have been 5,000, is it?
25, wasn't it?
I think it was 45 for the town office, and it'll be 25 for
Wow.
the community room.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's big money.
Mm,
Who's providing them with the advice on what sort of improvements to make that'll really do the trick? I've talked to a couple of people. Question came up on Lincoln Theater and stuff, and there are some, it's not just filtration. Adding filters doesn't really do it, I don't think, at least for COVID. It needs a ionization system or something.
right. It was our board chair who did the research and selected the system. So I do not know, other than the vendor who he consulted, to determine if it's the most effective system.
Well, if that's gonna get voted on, they probably ought to make sure they got their answers right. Oh, one thing I was thinking, and this would go for both towns, I guess, although Damariscotta has already weighed in, but in terms of the town meeting and stuff, are the selectmen expecting us to recommend an amount that they either vote up or down, or how does that system work? Since it's gonna be a town meeting vote.
Well, if we're talking about the vote on Monday, which isn't a town meeting vote,
Right.
it's the select board of allocating the opera funds. Any recommendation from a committee, I could certainly pass that along if you wanted to present a dollar amount.
Well,
As
I
we
think
go-
that's probably a done deal. I would say you probably ought to look at the bigger picture, maybe not, I don't know.
Well, and as we go forward through the budget process, I mean, the more we're vocal and say what we want and need, I'm
Mhm.
sure that's going to be heard as well. I guess my question for Evan is, Damariscotta, is that it? Was that the only funding source? Are we reading into that, or that was just allocation of their ARPA funds?
There might be room to move some contingency, but I wouldn't say it's very much.
Okay, but at least we can say that they haven't said that's the only funding they will do.
Right. The comments that Matt made at the meeting were pretty negative toward hoping for more funds, but that's about all I can say.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if it's currently 70,000 out of this ARPA funds for stuff that the town manager is bringing forward, can we ask for the remaining 70,000 to be put to wiring the unwashed?
You can certainly, I mean, we can ask for, yeah,
What would be the downside to doing that?
I don't see any downside of asking for what we think we need to do what the town essentially asked us to do.
Is this
Well-
a special town meeting vote or strictly selectmen, David?
On the 28th, it's a regular
Yeah.
select board meeting.
Yeah,
Now, yeah, so hopefully we get lots of folks there that will support allocating funds, and
yeah.
folks that were willing to state an amount.
I mean, it would seem there should be a committee or something on strictly the ARPA funds. I don't know how Damariscotta came up with their amounts. I would imagine it may have come up.
Yeah, I think they got several asks, and I think Matt more or less drew it up for the selectmen to give an okay
Yeah.
for a recommendation.
And that's about what we're doing in Newcastle.
Okay,
And then Whitefield's making a committee, and with Wiscasset, I think they've just slowly picked off one at a time, things they
Yeah.
want to pay for.
I see. Okay, so they're not trying to allocate all the money in one meeting here. It's just as they come along, they'll make a decision.
I think it'll all be allocated on the 28th.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Newcastle.
Yeah.
Well, I think
would-
Tom's idea is good. So,
Well, you
Well,
want,
yeah, I
they're
agree.
gonna ask you proportionally, I know it's not even Stephen, but it's pretty close to 50-50, right? Damariscotta and Newcastle. So they're gonna say, well, Damariscotta is only doing 12.5. Why are you asking for 70? So you just have to be ready to say, well, we really feel we should play a bigger role, right? Right? I forgot what the number was, Evan, the share that LCI wanted the towns to pay. It's more like 100,000 or something like that. So
yeah, how much, what would, if we're just talking phase one for the unserved,
Right.
Wasn't our share like 100 for the two towns, 100,000?
102.
Something.
Mhm.
Yeah, 102, 1, 2, whatever, yeah.
That's, with a 50% split, of the money that would be due after any grant.
Right, right,
which
oh,
is-
yeah, yeah.
To me, that's excessive if they're getting 100% of the revenue. However, I think probably the more that Newcastle puts in, I suspect the better the chance of getting the grant, right? It's like the more matching funds that are available, is that the grant funding is more available, or is
Yeah,
that not a good read on it, Mary Ellen?
I think there's some formulas that are going to be applied this time around. So obviously more of the better, because you've got to have a higher, what is it called, local or community financial commitment.
Mhm.
But that might allow you to decide, I hate to say this, that you put in your own application. What if you get $70,000 from the selectmen? And then Ellen goes, okay, we can work with that or something. I don't really know.
Right,
I don't
right.
know, but that's a better sign than 12.5.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, maybe
Yeah.
only 50. I think we need to, is the 101, the total, the two towns total?
Trying to pull it
share?
up right now.
No, that's.
No, it's just one
that's
time.
No, it's just
the
ours. That's just Newcastle.
One time.
Yeah.
Frankly, I would go in at 50 and recommend 50,
Yeah, That seems-
because that's 25%. And Tidewater would cover 75% of that 40%, right? Is that what they split? I can't,
Pull it up here. in
yeah,
2
we have to
seconds.
look at the spreadsheet again to.
It's also my understanding that there's wiggle room with LCI. So if we're able to support 50,000 from the town, it's possible that some of those areas that and line items that made up the 102, 104, that LCI would see that Newcastle has really worked hard to come up with a good amount of money.
Mhm.
And it was also my understanding that these payments were paid quarterly, so it's not like the town has to supply the money all at once.
Carol, what makes you think there's wiggle room?
Alan told us that there was. It's like anything. If you're going to go buy a new car and they tell you it's $50,000, and then you start saying, but I don't need this or I don't need that. I don't know how the rest of the board interpreted that, but my understanding from Alan was that there was some wiggle room. This was just the initial presentation.
It's a
I
trial
told-
balloon, essentially.
I spoke with Alan, and I told him that there is concern on our board about seeing the admin fees there,
Mhm.
which is just overhead. And he said, well, we can talk about that. So I think that's the wiggle room, at least at a minimum,
Right.
is, those things that are normally in overhead. Now, this spreadsheet is for the whole project, not broken down in both phases.
Yeah, he's got one that I think that is broken down, isn't it? Or
Yeah.
Yeah, we can,
there
Right
it
You
is.
had
below
it
there.
er-
It's next
That's-
one. There you go.
Next one.
It's right
Yeah,
there.
there you go.
100.
So there it's 100, but that does have some of those admin overhead, legal
Mhm.
expenses.
and that number is based off of, exactly. So when we go back up to here,
Mhm.
they have 336,000 total, but that it doesn't only include the admin, it includes their, let me get my screen out of the way. There we go. That includes all of their drop pricing and every other thing. That's just the cost of doing business.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
when you turn it back and you look at realistically what it's going to take to put fiber down these roads, and then obviously get them hooked up to another fiber, you're looking at 82,000 for their zone, and then 77.5 for the consolidated area.
Mhm. Mhm.
But that's phase 2, right?
Nope, that's phase 1. So this
Okay.
is what
In
they're
the
doing
room.
is this number down. Tell me if I'm moving it too quick, if it lags, or I'll go slow. So the total cost they put on was 336,000 to hook up all of the unserved, but within that 336,000, you go back up to here. That includes all of the surcharges, like right here, 116 of that 1,000 is just them hooking up customers directly at the house. So it's only going to be taken up if people actually buy the service.
And is that figured on 100%?
That's figured,
Or is that
Right.
80%?
or maybe
80.
30, or maybe the full total looks like to be right here at 116,000, and then they're
But
I
the target
don't know if
market
this
share
is-
was like
all right.
80%. So,
I think their target, yeah,
80%.
78
changes.
people.
yeah. So let me run that through a calculator. But anyway, it's it's how you look at it. So if you're getting into those numbers, I think your cap, put as much money as you want to. That's good for the application. But as far as how do you talk to people and say, how are we subsidizing these people? And if the cap should be 100,000 total. So if we do 78, we'll do 80 because that's the other two within the,
All right, unserved. Yeah.
that's $120,000 of drop cable and their ONT and the router and everything else that's already hooked in there. So out
Mhm.
of that 336,000 minus 120,000. Probably going too fast and I wish I had a calculator up, but that already brings the project cost down to 216,000. So I like to look at it that the first place that the town would be when you chop up the project
Yep.
and say, where's the money actually going? The money is best going to this 82,000, this 77.5, and then the make ready and
Ready.
within that same area,
Electronics, yeah.
which would, if you can add on this 29,000, but the real cap of the project that should be subsidized, they want the whole thing to be subsidized, but the real cap of what they're gonna be spending money on is more like, if we add on the make ready there and the other 4,000, you're talking about 123,000 of total project costs to get them down, and that excludes their cost of doing business, the drop cable and everything else that they're going to incur when somebody subscribes. So it's a hard thing to swallow, because if you're paying 30%, then you should expect that you get every single home drop cable to their house, whether they want it or not, the minute,
Mhm, mhm.
which is something that they've included, but they also included in the construction cost. So you are paying for it, even though they're acting like they're including something, when you think about it.
So how do we resolve this thing? And, I'm looking at the March 20 deadline to get this application in. How are we ever going to do that without a clear, unless Tidewater
Well,
says,
I think
"Oh,
that's
okay,
why, coming up with 101,000 is ridiculous, because it's 30% based on they're doing everything. If it was 30% based off of, like 123,000, for example,
Mhm.
then you're talking about $37,000 of a cost from the town. But if the town wants to put in 50, more power, that's great, more power to them.
Yeah.
And then we can still write a proposal to the commissioners to try and match it.
I mean, this may come down to if Tidewater says, well, if Damariscotta can't come up more than $12,000, we're not doing Damariscotta, and maybe we're just down to Newcastle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I don't
well,
know what would happen with an asynchronous or asymmetrical, dollar amount,
Yeah. I know.
because it's still pointless for them to throw that away.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, I just wondered, Evan or David, have you gotten any sense from Alan whether he's ready to negotiate? Because you're talking about negotiating in a serious way, now to reduce
Right.
the cost. So, or is he just holding his breath like he did with Damariscotta?
If I had to guess, I don't think they want to have it. To be completely frank, I don't know if they even want to do this right now. I
Yeah.
mean, we should force them to, because what are they going to do? Say no?
I would
But-
think the real press is the phase one. I mean, that's the only
Right.
part that Connect Main's gonna enter into any deal
correct.
anyway.
Right.
So, but there's no question they could do just Newcastle.
Yep.
Now, if Newcastle is the only one, well, it's no different than Bremen or Bristol, you know?
So the, excuse me, so the key date is the 28th.
20, yes.
That's,
Yeah.
no, I'm talking about the 28th when we go to Newcastle.
Yep, sorry. Yep.
Without that, and without, some reasonable money, we're not gonna get anywhere after that, right? So, well, we got 8 days or so. So
But David can make a recommendation to the town manager to put 50,000 on that docket.
Absolutely.
no, I agree, but we have to have some rationale and some basis
Right.
for it.
Right.
We
And what,
should-
excuse me,
Right.
just, and Evan's done a wonderful job of walking us through that. So does it make sense to have a discussion with Alan post,
Right.
real soon?
Yeah.
And have that same discussion and see if we can get that number down a little bit. And then put a page together for David to present on the 28th to the select board with a number. We just can't say we want 50. And they're gonna say,
Right, right.
why? What's your basis? And, well, we gotta have a good story. And I think that a more
Right.
precise number with Alan would be helpful.
And that's the thing is, I don't like how firmly they want to play their card as to, well, this is what we asked for, and they mentioned appetite a lot when he made the presentation, and this, somebody else can weigh in if they want, but it's just like, what appetite are you trying to gauge out of people when you're starting at if 12,500 is a non-starter, 30% is a double non-starter.
Well, they're
So,
just throwing
yeah.
numbers. They're negotiating,
Exactly.
too. I mean,
Right.
How
But-
much is,
so that's that's what that's how I see it. Does
Sure.
anybody see it any different? I mean, if the 28th doesn't go well, the 20th, I mean, yeah, 28 doesn't go well. The 20th may not even happen unless
Yeah.
LCI comes, all right, we'll take 12.5 and whatever we can get from Newcastle. I don't think we should hope for that.
So what I would like to see is for the select board to come up with a number and allow us to go away with that number, commit to Tidewater. If Tidewater doesn't like that number, well, before that they also commit some funds to a contingency fund that we could probably tap into or may be able to tap into later if we needed it in a negotiation with Tidewater.
We need to
I
make.
don't want to put it that way because I don't want Tidewater to think money will be available. But I
We
don't
need to make
think,
a proposal to the select board though, Dave, right?
oh, yes, we definitely should have a number, but just in
Okay.
case, well, I don't think Tidewater is going to negotiate against itself now. They put their offer on the table. So we have to come back and say, this is what we have, and they can decide whether or not to adjust or not, or come with us.
one
Again,
question,
I'm shooting for the 28th. and
Right.
having a good story for the
Mhm.
select board so we can get as much as we can. We
Right.
just can't go in and say, 50,000 sounds right.
No,
Right,
I
right.
think what Evan just did is we look at this spreadsheet and we
Let me,
say, this is
yeah.
what really their costs are to get the underserved and unserved done. And we subtract out some of these costs that they have for admin and potentially the other cost of doing business costs. And
Yeah.
sort of rework their formula with different numbers and say, this is what we think is reasonable and what the town should contribute.
Do you think we should have a row with Alan before that? Once we do that,
Well,
before the
if-
28th?
If the committee redid this and said, this is what we're gonna recommend to the select board, I think Evan or I should maybe give a heads up to Alan and say, what do you think? And if he
Yeah,
says.
well,
well,
at least, yeah, no, yeah,
you know,
I mean,
and-
test him. I mean.
Yeah, and if he says, well, it's we're just not going to move off of that number, then we will say, okay, we'll do our own thing. Or if he says, well, can you come up 1,000 more? Yeah, I don't know what. But I think you're right, Tim. We need to go in with, no matter what, with a definite number that we think will do it the best we can and explain that number.
And a really good story. We need, you have to have a
Good
real good
stories.
story. Because this is critical. If we don't get enough, and whatever, we don't know, everyone has their own number of enough, we're dead in the water, I
Well,
think.
for some reason,
Like-
Damariscotta thought we were doing 25. No, we haven't voted on anything. But after they approved the 12, I heard one of the select board members say, oh, well, Newcastle's doing 25. I don't know where that
Well,
came from, but
Yeah, well,
Yeah, and I've only mentioned to people what their,
and I don't
what the
know,
goal, what a goal would be.
right, and
So-
if Tidewater's thinking that same way or not, I don't know. And they're just trying to get as much as they can. If I look at it percentage wise, I just have trouble seeing us putting in such a equal amount as Tidewater, but Tidewater
Right.
gets all the revenue.
And that's,
I mean,
Yeah,
I
no,
think
I-
that,
Yeah.
I think that's.
So-
a healthy
and that's what we
viewpoint.
should, and that's a discussion we should have with Alan,
Right.
right away. I really think,
Yes.
and get his, Start
Ideally, it would be nice to have Alan say, okay, we'll go as low as such and such, and if you can
Right,
get us,
right.
that would be
Exactly.
perfect. And you go
Yep.
and ask for it, you got, and they
we
can.
got a
either
better
approve
number,
or-
and we can tell the select board, hey, we're working, we're working on Alan, I
Right.
think that comes first before getting the number and then going to Alan with our number, because I just feel the number will be low if we don't have a real good number. If that makes any sense, which it doesn't, I know.
Getting back to, the total allocation for Newcastle is like 175 something, as I remember. And so how much has been actually taken out of that at this point, or has nothing been?
You're talking about the ARPA funds?
Yeah, ARPA.
Well, that's what David was sharing with us at the beginning about what the town had already allocated or
Yeah,
was
but how
hoping to
much is
get
it? How much,
approved.
what's the total? Do we know what the total is, Dave?
It was around 175, I think.
Well,
no,
that's
I
the
think
total, but
It
is
was
this the
one,
first?
161 was the total.
Okay.
And
Okay.
you take out the 45 and then take out 25, then I'm not really aware of any proposals except for the bonus to the employees. What will be recommended for the other stuff. I will find that out by the end of this week, I trust, but at this point, I don't know.
Because there's, it would seem the best way would at least, the most that you might ask for. And it might be 60, I don't know what the number when
Right.
you subtract all that
Right.
stuff out is, but it would seem that we shouldn't be shy about asking for numbers, and maybe
'Cause you're
the
gonna,
way you couch it is that number would have to be shared between the first phase and the second phase in some manner or another. I don't know if that makes sense.
Maybe, but I would shoot high just because knowing they're probably gonna knock it down a little bit.
No,
Should we
I
go
would
with-
go as high as you can. That
Yeah.
would be mine.
Yeah.
Well,
Mary Ellen, and I have a question for Mary Ellen and David. This is not our only shot at getting services to the unserved, correct?
there'll be other grant rounds, yep.
Right. Okay. So sending a message that this is our only shot, I don't think that's a good thing to do. I think that this is important, but to let people think that if we don't make this, then there isn't going to be another opportunity.
Sure. It's
No,
just
but
that
we
this is
still
a
have to-
better opportunity probably than the,
Yeah,
And we still have to press that, the fact that, we have citizens say that they want it now, not later.
Right.
So I do see it as a little more pressing in that regards, not necessarily in getting the money, but in the need for the community.
Well, also, there's $16 million available now, and there's X number of towns. I don't even know how many towns are going to apply, but the competition is probably only going to get more as the other federal
Yeah.
money gets put in.
and the strain on the resources is gonna get more too. I mean, Tidewater, You know, someone's gonna get ahead of us, you know, town XYZ is gonna get ahead of us, or, you know, whatever, whether it's, you know, all the infrastructure. So I think we should emphasize, this is our best shot. We gotta make it, you know, we gotta make it go of it. Hey,
Okay.
David, another question, that 161, is a franchise fee in that too? The
No,
Spectrum
that is
franchise?
just, that's all just opera funds at the moment.
Okay, is the franchise fee, I've asked this a couple times, is this available for discussion with the board?
It is, but through the budget process. So we
Oh.
wouldn't be able to allocate anything until June through that process.
Could they agree to say, okay, yeah, we'll give you the franchise fee and it's X, and we could consider that, you know, or include that in our amount that we share with Tidewater and Connect Main on up the line?
That's, I don't think they can, because that's future funds, the allocating future, you know, what comes in under the
Okay.
next budget, so.
But
Well,
could we
but-
ask? I mean, you know,
I
I
mean,
mean, do we know
yeah.
what the number is?
We
I
can
mean,
certainly ask. Well, can we just start with this? Let's find the number that we're satisfied with. Excuse me. So I think we should really look at this and say, what's the number that we would recommend to the select board? And figure out how to present that, because if we support that, then we can, you know, not only ask the board to support that, but to support us as well in that. So I guess I would ask everybody, since we're all just Newcastle here, what would be the amount, knowing that there's approximately, by my count, about $91,000 available.
I think 70 is a good number.
I would ask for
Tom-
70.
Tom, you had mentioned it before.
I would ask for 70.
And
Mm.
how would you explain that and put that in by looking at these numbers, pull it out? And actually, Evan, if you can go back down to the
Yep.
Allocation for phase one,
Oops.
I mean, given that number and the proposed split after any grant funds. I
Down
mean,
here, this one.
yeah, just this one down
Yep.
here, exactly. So if we're looking, yeah, perfect, at 101,000.
Mhm.
And so if we're at 70% of that, what's that bring us down to 25% roughly? And then they would have to move up 35%. I don't have my calculator, but.
What was, oh, if you had 70,000,
Right, yeah, where does that put us percentage wise? Because frankly, when I look at just a percentage wise, I think it should be more like 70% Tidewater, 30% us, or
20.7% would be the $70,000 would be 20% of the $336,000 total.
okay, so yeah,
Whereas I just drew this up on a Excel sheet. The cost for unserved in LCI's territory, the consolidated territory, and the additional make ready for the unserved within consolidated comes to 93,842.
I'm troubled by the fact here, by looks of this, if we were lucky enough to get a 40% grant, shouldn't Tidewater be paying more than 40% as well? I mean, it's just a give me
Well, I agree, David.
two of,
That's a discussion we should have with Alan.
yeah,
Right.
Make that.
Yeah,
You know,
50
Right now,
50 is
it's,
not right.
I mean, they're saying Connect Main's 139. And then we in Tidewater are sharing the remaining 200,000 for phase one. Isn't that how I read that?
Yep.
yes,
Forget
more or
about all
less,
the
yep.
ins and outs, Evan. I know you got
Yes,
the
that's
points
correct.
on the ins and outs. That's what they're saying. So we then go back to Alan in the next couple of days and say, hey, we don't think we should be sharing. You guys are going to be getting revenue, you know, down the line. And for this, and this reason, we think we think it should be 60-40 or, you know,
Something.
Yeah.
30-70 or whatever it is.
And that's
And then our
exactly what I'm
number-
getting at, is it shouldn't even be 60 of the 336,000 number, because that number is nuts to begin with, because you're paying there, that's the entire of everything.
Right, exactly.
Hey,
So
Evan,
that goes into where you're telling the story of what your number means. Go ahead, George.
would it make sense to have you kind of put this together, all your thoughts on how much of those overhead costs and the connect costs that Tidewater's got, to make it so it makes a little more sense, because you seem to have a
Right,
pretty
right.
good handle on it. It just needs to be, I think, done in a way that we can all understand and can present it to the town.
Yeah,
and to Tidewater.
I wish I had plenty of whiteout so I could just paint most
Oh,
of
yeah.
this entire thing.
Well, you can do it and then just email it to us.
I do think it's important to touch base with Alan, because I think that
Right.
negotiating in public with the selectmen and saying we're gonna hold,
Yeah, no,
you know,
no.
we're hoping to
right.
enforce.
We don't wanna
Tidewater
do that.
something.
No.
We don't really want to do that, and we want to know what kind of wiggle room this. If you guys come up with $70,000, I think that's phenomenal, just
Yeah.
given that you just got the cost
think-
information 2 weeks ago. And I do think with all the stories you guys are collecting, you can make the case for it. So 70,000 seems healthy, and but I would also want to we don't want to trip LCI up either. But anyway, I would sit down with them before you go to the select people.
Hey, David, what chance you think you have of the selectmen approving as big a share of the ARPA funds as we're asking for? That would be the next thing. They may have a tough time with that one.
They may, just because of the sheer size of it and the fact that we're subsidizing a for-profit business essentially.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I
But
appre-
if it's what we get, what we're buying for the money is the way I look at it, and the way it should be sold. And if we're saying we're buying access for everybody, equality for everybody, then what's the price we're willing to pay for that?
Yeah.
Hey, David, I think we need to look past a little bit the for-profit, who's making what,
Right,
and whatever.
Right, right.
That never works, in my experience. I think it's important, and we haven't said it yet. Connect Maine has come back to us and said, you guys want money, you town of X, you got to step up. I think that message has to get out to your
That's
mates
correct.
on the 28th. That if we don't come hard, town of Newcastle, and they may decide not to, then we're not going to get it from Connect Maine and get away from, how much Alan's making and how much this and that. I don't, that's, in my experience, that's a lose-lose situation.
And the other thing you bring to the table is, well, how many other projects and expenditures is this money eligible for? And how many, how many projects do you even
Yes.
have that fit the category?
Well, I
Right.
Yep.
think one of the things we need to stress in this is whatever we have, 90-something homes or 100 and something homes or addresses, how many people are affected by not having access to internet? And so we've already identified what some of the things are that people are not able to get for services, but how many people are really affected? There's got to be, some homes have 4 people, some have 2, some have 5. We don't know those numbers. So when we look at an address, there's a lot of people affected, and this money from the town of Newcastle is helping to support these families.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to say that the girls in the town office don't deserve a bonus, but when you look at those ARPA funds, to me, were designed to do something to help people who are in need. And I'm just not sure that.
And to
I mean-
fortify from the effects of the pandemic and for possible another pandemic or another whatever.
Will you remind me how many addresses is it 91?
99.
99.
Newcastle.
99, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So,
Almost, you could assume that maybe they're at least double people in those things. So 100, 200 people at a
Right.
minimum, if not.
Yeah,
more.
if you do your 99 over what their household number is, that's 8% of the town of households.
and the town is willing to take, what, 40,000 for ventilation? I personally have a little problem with that, but anyway, as far as a need goes, I'm not saying the need is not there, but if you compare the two things that we're asking for, for the people in the town. How many people use a community room, and can you open doors like we have been for the last few years? So I think, obviously they've already decided to allocate that money, so I don't think that I don't think we're asking for too much for what we need for our community.
Well, and as well, this is at least for 5 years, if not longer. I mean, it's not just a ventilation system that's going to die in 2 years. This is building infrastructure that will put people in a place to be where they want to be for the next 5 to 10 years.
And
You're
keep
talking
in-
about for the broadband, Tom?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I thought you were talking about
Exactly.
ventilation for a
No,
minute.
no,
I was
no,
like,
no.
"What?"
Yeah.
The
Well, keep in
value of a
mind- Keep in
long-term
mind too, that broadband as a subject matter, certainly at the federal level and on the state level and nationally, is a huge, and it's a huge part of the ARPA funding rationale that
Right.
that whole bill came about. So
Right,
I don't think we have to defend, that the broadband might or might not be necessary. I think it's clear that it is.
Right.
well, the interesting thing is that, as you know, George, when you don't have access, if you are talking to people that are already getting, 50 over 20 or 100 over 20, they look at you like you have horns, because they don't even know, when you say 3 over 1, they don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah, right.
So there's education involved. I mean, I thought the Newcastle Select Board was very supportive, very open-minded, and just unaware of what the need was, other than what they've heard. I know Joel Lynn has been involved in this and very, positive about trying to support it. And the awareness is there, but it's like with anything, if you have not experienced it yourself, you don't understand
Mhm.
what the need might be for other people. And this is a pretty large, group of people. We're talking, maybe 200 people that would benefit from these funds. So
I
that's,
think we
that's
need
a,
we need a really good presentation. And we need to come up with for the meeting Monday night. And I think it's pretty easy to come up with. It just needs to be done very clearly. And the couple of letters that you guys have gotten from down on Milliken Island Road, what that road off of Milliken Island Road that goes down to that, there was one letter that came in. I can't remember what the name was.
Bell Cove,
Yeah.
the woman that talked about what her needs were. Yeah,
Right.
she did a great job. Yes.
Yeah, I think a couple of, you don't need to have too many letters, but a couple like that, I think will be very persuasive.
Did those already get sent to select board members?
That one did. That went directly to a
I
couple of
haven't
them.
actually seen them except through the committee emails.
Yeah, you weren't listed, Dave, on the,
Okay.
we didn't put you on the email. I
Right.
think you said not to.
Right.
I received a couple, but I think I forwarded those. So we don't know
Okay.
what's out there, the
Good,
select
good.
board hopefully got them. But to that point, before we go back, and George, you're absolutely right. We need a presentation, a couple of pages, I think, showing what, and some of the stuff that Mary Ellen's talked about. And Dave, you got to be prepped to go, because this is it, in my opinion. And Carol, you said there's more, but there's also, you call it COVID fatigue. I think you call it broadband fatigue too. There's going to be a time when, not without getting behind everybody else, which I think is a big issue, is we're all going to get tired of this, I think.
Yeah.
So, and I
But
think this is a great opportunity, and it's right there in front of us. And if we can get Alan to play with us a little bit before the 28th, I think it'll help our story on the 28th. But before I go to that again, do you want to go out with another email? Because it doesn't sound like, of the 63 that I think we got to, we're getting much traction. I know a couple of people. I don't know if Carol, if you've heard any more from your friends, but you want to go out with another email to these folks?
I'm in
Or not?
favor of spending some money on a letter to get mailed to homeowners. I think we did that with the survey. And I think we we got a lot more people from that, don't you think, Dave? Those paper letters?
I
paper
really don't
surveys?
recall. I just don't know if there's funds left to cover that. And I'm
more
worried
time.
about the timing. I mean, frankly, I think it's time for the phone,
Yeah,
and
right.
just
Yeah,
calling
no, I think you're
people
right.
and saying, can you email, can you show up on the 28th? Can you do this? Can you, this is the time to do it. Is that $700 dollars per prescriber what they're expecting from the town only?
So
or
when you read
the
through where it
town
says the
and
total financial commitment is equal to the project cost minus the grant amount requested, then divided by the number of potential subscribers to be served. So if you did 70,000, which is not the, this is also adding in water's amount. If you did 70,000, excuse me, for 99 people, that's $707 per subscriber. Which isn't it, but that's you can
usually their
you could put
numbers.
that down and you could walk away and said, we've gone above and beyond, so Tidewater can handle the rest. So there's where you can tell your story right there. That's the magic number more or less, even though that's not how you're supposed to compute it.
Is that
But-
minimum financial commitment just the town, or are we talking combined
So I'll say it again. It's right here, the second sentence.
total project cost minus
The grant amount requested. So if we go to what they had, which now I don't have up, but it was 336,000 minus 40% is 201,000,
201,
which is what we thought. And, you divide that by 99 people and
Yeah.
you've got 2,000. 1,000 divided by 99. So that's $2,030 per subscriber. So at that rate, if they're adding in that much, to me, they should be able to get a lot more of your unserved as well. If you put in that amount. And I think something that, let me pull it back up. So of course, I just had it here. I'm zoomed way in. This is just how you rationalize your $70,000, but also, you've got that rationalization that's the $700 per subscriber, and the town's meeting that solely at a $70,000 contribution, or commitment rather. Let's say commitment, that's a much better word. And then you look at these other, this isn't coming up the way I would like it to, but oh well. You've got these other 38 people within the consolidated area that you'd also like to just cover in one foul swoop and have the whole town under the same umbrella. I think that would be also the second arm of this goal, is to get Tidewater in the mode that, hey, you're going to cover the whole town by borders, not just your original footprint. And then everybody's under the same situation. And we're not talking, because I talked to, I can't remember the selectman, the younger guy with the glasses. What's his name?
Daryl.
From Newcastle. Also Daryl.
Oh,
no.
Joel Lynn.
Joel Lynn.
Yeah.
Yep. So I talked to him and he lives in that area, but even he doesn't know about, the rationalization of it. And it's like, yeah, I understand from your point of view, because you've got cable, but at the same time, you just want to get everybody in, because right now, the people that pay taxes in that area, this whole thing has nothing to do with them until you make, well, except for the 2 unserved in that little wraparound. But if you include the whole 40 that are in that ring on Cochrane, Rhode Island Road, Station Road, I think that's another rationalization and way to look at it too.
What's the total cost if we focus on that?
Yeah, that's what you add in on top of that, $55,000 for strand and overlash,
Mhm.
and an additional $29,000 for make ready per pole. So that's 75 and 984,000. That, you know, you should consider just to get everybody under the same umbrella. And then once Tidewater's there, then they're there and they don't have to talk about it again. Because if they're running halfway down, if we bring that map up, if they're coming all the way down to get these unserved people right in the middle, like just finish the job, at least I know that there's a couple wicked long driveways on these ends, so it becomes a do they or don't they, but there's plenty of people on this ring.
Yeah, I was thinking, some of these, the unserved, if they've single person on a long driveway,
Yep.
the owner's gonna have to pay a good
Right.
portion of running that cable,
After whatever footage that they've come up
which
with.
would be to their advantage. It would be nice to know, just on the unserved, you know, whether
Right,
if there was a lot of money that they didn't have to actually spend to connect up people, that may be their advantage to just back off on their costs and say, okay, I will do that unserved stuff. And then go farther at another time.
right, and that's another thing to bring up with Alan. Yeah,
So in that regard, Evan, I think you and I should meet with them at my office and have a frank discussion with them prior to Monday's meeting, probably to give them time to react to afterwards. So it probably should be more like Wednesday or Thursday.
Mhm.
So if they had to do follow-up, but I want to impress with them, saying if you're disappointed with what happened in Damariscotta, here's your chance to help, control what happens
Right.
in Newcastle.
Right.
And then really do some negotiating with them.
right.
So, yeah.
And then when they get a little stiff, this is what you go with. You bring up these fine numbers right here.
Mhm.
In their current area, they've got 132 subscribers. Oh, this is Damariscotta. Let's go to Newcastle. They've got 97 subscribers out of a possible 374, 25.9%. And how many years have they had the ability to get more subscribers at this point? So,
Wouldn't it be good from the standpoint of the selectmen to put this together and not just wait till the meeting to present it to them, but actually give it to them so they can mull it over the weekend? And actually, then they might be able to make a decision Monday night. I think if you sprung it on them,
sure.
they'd say, well,
No,
wait, we got to
if-
think about this. We'll take it up at the next meeting.
All right, if we're looking at anything at the meeting, it has to be at the town office around 9 o'clock on Friday morning.
Yeah.
Because it goes out in the packet by noon time. So if it's not in there, the select board can't look at it.
I know Matt sometimes used to push the date. He usually sends that packet out on Friday, but sometimes there's a few things that he adds in, but not very
Yeah.
often.
Sarah's pretty hard on that, so is
Yeah.
Joel, so
Okay.
the more we can get to them earlier, the better.
I think that's a great idea. So we got to back up with, so if it's Friday, it's really Thursday night, I guess. And then,
Yeah.
so Alan is Tuesday, Wednesday, I guess. I don't know. But I mean, we could start to put the shell together of what's going to be presented by Dave
So
on Monday.
are we saying that at least the committee would request not more than 70? Where's the bottom range? What I'm looking for is something that I could assert to Alan and say, look, I'm having a trouble getting the committee up, but you really need to work with us. So tell me what you can do. And because right now he's got to be looking for a committee recommendation. And sort of that's what I'm looking for too, because that's what the select board's going to be looking for ultimately. But we it's hard for us to do that without talking to Tidewater more.
Yeah, so,
But it-
yeah, I'm sorry, were you
yeah.
talking about recommendation to the select board or a recommendation to Alan? I missed that.
Sort of both in a way, but I mean,
All right.
ultimately, the select board would entertain a recommendation from the committee.
Yeah,
But
Right.
when I go in and when Evan and I speak with Alan, if we, told him, look, to get the committee on board, you need to move. And I just wondering how I could phrase it to not disclose where the committee's at, but to show him that, if he puts the effort into it, we're going to do better than Damariscotta. And I'm half thinking out loud here too, so bear with me.
yeah, no, I don't think that makes any difference, Dave, what Dameron is doing. I
No,
think Matt.
but we can use that to show him that if he doesn't really come around, that Damariscotta just got lost in the numbers. But if he really wants to get serious and give us his bottom line, then we could probably work with him. But with these huge sticker shock numbers, we can't guarantee that he's going to get anything more than, oh, if somebody says we'll match Damariscotta.
Yeah.
I guess that's what I'm
But
thinking.
right now, he's expecting us to he's expecting the select board to approve $101,066.
That's what he's asking, yes.
He's asking for that. And so we would like to make that smaller, obviously. So that's the discussion that, Evan goes through the math with him and picks out these items. And if we got that number down to his ask, Alan's ask, this is before select board, let's say, I don't know, pick a number, 70,000. Okay, and then we feel, we'd feel better when you go to the select board and say, okay, they're asking for 70, we want 70. Right now 100,000 seems to be too steep. So we got to get Alan convinced that his ask should be less than 101,000.
Hmm.
And then the next thing is if you do get 70,000 or you do get 50,000, I've just done a little bit of quick math.
That we
here.
add in the folks up on Cochrane Road too.
Not only that, but we should be negotiating even more than that, because
Right.
this number right here, and the next question I'll ask will be to Mary Ellen once I'm done explaining this 101,000 that is split. If you do that 101,066 that Tidewater says they're going to be doing, and you divide it by your 99, that's $1,000 and $1,020 per subscriber. So they're already meeting the grant minimum per subscriber. So if the town's putting in another, if we do 101 plus 70, 101,000 plus 70,000 as an example, divide by 700, that's 244 subscribers that you should be looking at, not just the unserved. And that's the next question I had for you, Mary Ellen, something that Kristen and I had talked about is with the unserved, did we have to give that information to Connect Maine ahead of time of what actual addresses, or to catalog the underserved, excuse me.
I'm not
Because
sure.
Right,
I'm not
because they hadn't come up with anything.
I'm not sure about that. Because we were thinking about focusing on the grant on unserved. So that's what you provided to them, right? A few weeks ago?
Right.
Right. I'm not sure about that.
From
but,
the state's point of view, we don't know if they wanted E911 addresses or.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't think they want those, but you know what, that's, I do know that, they're weighing the applications for the greatest improvement for the least
Right.
served. So everyone that's like 3 over 1, and you can, you're going to fall into one bucket there. And I think I'm not really sure right now. I don't think, did LCI lay out any details about the underserved? How they would.
Only, that's what they put into this whole phase 2 plan of how they foresaw doing it. And
Yeah, I'm
that
not-
number.
I'm not sure how to judge how much of an improvement is being proposed right now for the underserved. in Newcastle.
Gotcha.
I hate to do this, but I have to run to another meeting, but you have me, I want to see the next program in the series here. So the suspense is killing me here. So are you guys likely to meet or at least talk later this week?
My schedule's open, so. up to
Yeah, I
you,
think we're gonna
everybody
have
else.
to. We should.
I'm only, Thursday's the best day for me. Wednesday, I've got to work at the library till 1, and then I've got a 2:00 meeting with DEP on the Damariscotta thing, and that'll probably last an hour at least. So if you can do it
And
Thursday,
then-
if that's not pushing it too much, because you got to get it done and out.
And then
to them.
David, if you want to get in a meeting with Alan before we all touch base again, then I would leave that to you to schedule, because I can probably make it happen
Okay.
on my end.
Tomorrow afternoon, good for you?
Yep, I think we can make that
Okay,
happen.
well, that's what
We've
I will shoot for. Actually,
Okay.
actually, maybe that doesn't work. I had a closing move away, so that's good. So yeah, I'll follow up with you on that. So, but that's the goal, is to meet with him very early, and then we can take it from there.
Because, I mean, we're asking for 70, but the selectmen may say, well, we're not gonna leave ourselves that little for other uses, so. Good to, I think if you made a good case, I have a feeling that they probably might give you the whole 70, but you never know.
That's why I'd asked for 91, but anyways, this is me. Plus, first dibs on the franchise fee, but anyways.
True, I mean, that may be the better. point.
Why not ask? Hey, dreaming is free. Why not?
Right.
But
But we still need we still need the story, though. I mean. as
Oh,
you-
absolutely.
And,
Oh, I
and the
understand that.
more people who are speaking up, the more it's gonna happen. And I bet you we'll be the only ones there requesting funds. And,
That's a good thing.
yeah, so hopefully, it's heard loud and clear. And the only.
Hey, Evan, maybe you could sketch out the couple pages, just some big items, because, I mean, the numbers will be the numbers, whatever we get from, any change in Tidewater. It's either 100,000 or less, right? So maybe you could sketch that couple pages that Dave's gonna need for, to present on Monday to get the started. You can
Yeah,
send that
we'll
around. I'm
we'll
happy to.
definitely, yep.
Yeah,
I
I mean, we
certainly
don't have to
wouldn't-
wait. I mean, my point is, you don't have to wait for Alan, because there's other bits in here that, need to be brought across, whether it's community, input, or how much Connect Main is, and what, I'm guessing that probably they don't know that much about Connect Main and what their requirements are. So that has to be brought out. So anyways,
At least,
started.
at least all the selectmen have seen the Tidewater's presentation. So
Mhm.
these charts won't be new to them.
yeah,
And as I think
well,
about
these-
it, for what I know will be on this list, if you say 91, that's the gap of the things that appears to be available, not for other projects. Maybe that makes the most sense to request the most available. And
I wouldn't tell Tidewater that. though.
and,
I'd tell them
no, I
70.
wouldn't.
No.
Yeah.
No,
and
no, I
then,
wouldn't either, but
Oh.
as I think it through, what else are they gonna, use the money for? If you don't claim
Right.
the whole thing,
Yeah.
then it may slip away. And
yeah.
this will
Yeah,
really,
absolutely.
this will really test the board if it's really serious about the vision that
Yep.
they have.
Absolutely. Yeah, but just, George, we're not presenting this to the select board, this presentation with all these numbers, right? Evan, David?
No,
They've already seen
Oh,
that.
They've
Right.
Yeah,
seen
we don't-
those, but
it's just too
We're
detailed
beyond
for them.
that, So,
This is
you
way
know,
too detailed.
yeah.
But I would make
need-
it in the same thing, but maybe just bottom line, not detailed numbers, but just show the Connect
A
Main
few
amount.
numbers, yeah.
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 No,
yeah, you can cut
definitely.
out just about 70 or 80% of their
Right,
Yeah.
spreadsheet and just
Oh, yeah,
show
no,
the
that
key,
would-
the key figures.
right.
No, I agree.
Mhm.
100%.
But if our
If you want to
conversation
yeah.
with Alan makes it sound like we can get away with spending less, and we get that number, then we'll just have to figure out the strategy for getting that number as well.
Mhm.
You know, and he
And I
may say,
think we have, yeah, I think we end up having several, once Newcastle gets a commitment, then you start leveraging even more.
Yes.
Because just
Yeah.
because you vote on it doesn't mean you have to give it all away. That's when you start
And the
pushing
real
it and say,
negotiations begin, right?
finally, yeah,
Yeah.
with a little bit of leverage.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I think it's important that Tidewater know that the only source of money that the town's got right now is the ARPA money. That's
Yeah.
it. Anything else is gonna have to be done at the town meeting. So if they want to do this thing, they're gonna have to fairly quickly come up to speed, because given what their, history is
Right.
for making these things, decisions has been pretty awful.
well, and then we could put other contingencies on it too, to justify spending a higher amount, is that, you know, deadlines, when it's gonna get done, so that
Yep.
we know better, and that we're all built out before Damariscotta, right?
Mhm.
Make it happen. Hey, let's do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, they start on
Newcastle's
Milliken
been
Road,
working on it.
right?
Say it again.
Newcastle's been working on this thing for
Right.
2
Right.
years now, and Damariscotta came in last fall, so.
Yep.
So it looks
All
like.
right,
we-
guys, we're getting down to the short strokes
Okay.
here.
Right.
It's
Big week.
looking good, actually, if we can convince the selectmen to spend the kind of money we're looking at. I think
91,000.
Whatever. Whatever.
It's a big chunk of money, but it's not taxpayer money, so to
Well,
speak.
that's the important thing. You know, if you're
Yeah.
trying to convince the taxpayers or the ratepayers that are already paying Spectrum to have to pay for this, that's a much bigger sell.
And I venture, the more that we contribute for phase one, maybe we get by with less on phase two.
Could be.
That'll be the next conversation.
Right,
Mhm.
because the phase two would have to be taxpayer money unless there's
Yeah.
newer grant funds out there.
Right. And we want to venture to say that with the amount of work that they'll do to get to the unserved, it'll be that much easier to get to the rest of the people, although they'll never admit to that. All right, so we will, or David, you work out your schedule, contact Alan, get a hold of me, and then once we go through that, we'll come back and have a briefing with this group. Is that the plan for the rest of the week?
I think this is a plan, and I think I got a good sense of where we're headed. And yeah, just do all you can, talk to everybody you can in Newcastle.
Yep.
And encourage them to talk with the select board and come, definitely be there if we can.
Yep.
I'll have to be there regardless, so. And unfortunately, the new system isn't installed yet, so we'll have
Yeah.
to breathe dirty air, like, if you will.
And I'm leaving on Wednesday to go to Florida for a month or so.
Okay.
So, but I'll be available by Zoom or